Hi there, everyone. Welcome to the second webinar, which is designed for our alumni community of the Mobile for Humanitarian Innovation Fund. We're delighted to have you all join us again for this second event, and we're really happy that you're joining us for the next hour. We have 3 excellent presentations lined up for you. It's going to be really fantastic. Just to remind everyone, this webinar will be recorded. The purpose of that is that we can share the recording with any alumni who are not able to join us live today for the event. And this will be shared with all of you too by email with a YouTube link. Now, the first thing that I would like to share with all of you is a link to our LinkedIn area that we have set up specifically for our alumni of the Innovation Fund. We're going to be using this space to share with you new calls for funding that we see coming up in the humanitarian and innovation spaces. So it will be a really good one-stop shop to see all the latest calls for funding that members of our team here at GSMA have identified. So if I could invite you all to click on the link that's in the chat and join that LinkedIn community, that would be fantastic, because we would love as many of you as possible to be a part of that group. So next, I would like to invite all of you to just introduce yourself, let you know who you're here from, which organisation you're representing today. I think that would give us a really good sense of the breadth of our alumni community on the call. So we're going to have these 3 presentations that I will shortly introduce you to. And after that, we will have 10 minutes dedicated to Q&A. So we're inviting you to write any burning questions that you have for any of our 3 presenters in the chat during the presentation time. So when we come to the Q&A session, we'll have a list of questions that we can work through. Any that we can't answer during the time of the webinar, we will follow up with you later. And if the presenters are happy to, we can even connect you directly with them as well. And then I have just 2 more pieces of information to share with you today. The first one is to tell you about our reinvigorated Kanua toolkit, and I am posting the link to the microsite for that in the chat as well. So this represents a range of tools to help you and any other organisation working in the humanitarian space to examine mobile phone use for humanitarian purposes. And it's aiming to help you with developing a very strong evidence base on mobile penetration, access, use and preferences in humanitarian contexts. So do feel free to check it out in your own time. And I'm also pleased to tell you that we will be doing a deep dive into this toolkit during the next alumni webinar, which is tentatively scheduled for the 4th of July. So more details about this will be shared with you later. But for now, I am going to introduce you to our next speaker. I'll just pull down our title slide there and start with giving you an overview of EPIMAC. So EPIMAC Biteni is currently the Executive Director of M-Pesa Limited, which is a subsidiary of Vodacom Tanzania. He is a seasoned executive with over 16 years of experience in strategic and operational roles with leading telecoms operators in Tanzania. In his current position, he has been responsible for transforming M-Pesa from basic core services into fully fledged digital financial services. The transformation journey has seen M-Pesa venturing into new spaces like digital insurance, merchant payments, global remittances, digital lending, savings product, group savings, and many, many more. EPIMAC is passionate about driving financial inclusion in Africa through the power of technology, and he has a great presentation to share with us today. So EPIMAC, thank you for joining us, and over to you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jenny. Greetings from Tanzania, the land of Kilimanjaro in Zanzibar. And by the way, I'm doing this presentation from Zanzibar. So let me know if you can see my slides.
We can see them, yes.
You can see the slides. Yeah, so I'll go straight. On introduction, I work with Vodacom Tanzania, and Vodacom Tanzania is a leading telecommunication company here. We provide a wide range of services to both consumers and enterprise, from voice, data, messaging, and specifically financial services, which is my space, and enterprise solutions as well. M-Pesa Tanzania is operating as a subsidiary of Vodacom Tanzania, of which I'm executive director, and it is the largest mobile money operator here in Tanzania with over 16 million customers and a market share of more than 35%. So Vodafone, which owns Vodacom, is a purpose-driven company. And our purpose is really to connect for the better future. So we focus on three pillars. The first pillar is really connected society. We want to drive digital transformation, connecting everyone, creating connected digital societies. The second pillar is really inclusion for all. So from digital inclusion, but also in African perspective, we're talking more on financial inclusion, which you'll see in the coming slides, that mobile money has been able to really bridge the gap between the unbanked population, which is very, very big in Africa. And then the last pillar is really sustainable business. Here we're talking about protecting the planet, making sure that whatever we're doing, we do in a way that we still protect our planet, Tanzania. So this is the fact sheet for financial inclusion in Tanzania specifically. This is a survey. It's a bit old. There is a new survey which is being conducted this year. The results are not yet out. So this is the FinScope survey. It was done by FSTT in 2017, and it shows really the trends of financial inclusion in the country from 2009 to 2017, which was the last survey. So if you look at it in 2009, the population of the adult population, which was financially excluded, was sitting at 55%. So 55% of the adult population, which did not have any form of access to financial services. And then we had only 9% of the adult population having access to bank services. These are official bank services. And then we've got the yellow part, which is they don't have bank accounts, but they have other means, other formal means of accessing financial services. So if you look at this in Tanzania, mobile money started in 2008, where M-Pesa went first. So by 2009, mobile money was contributing 7% of formal financial inclusion in the country. And then we have 29%. So these are, they don't have formal, they have informal. So in Africa, there's a very interesting concept whereby people will be saving money in groups. They'll be meeting every week or every month together, saving together, and then giving each other loans. So that's what you call informal financial services. So if you look at the trends between 2009 to 2017, financial inclusion has grown to reach 65% by 2017. But the most interesting figure that I want you to see is the yellow part, because if you look at the yellow part, the mobile money is contributing out of the 65%, is contributing to 48.6% of the 65%. The bank grew from 9 to 16.7%, but mobile money grew from 7 to 48.6%. So literally in Africa, if you talk about bridging the gap between the banked and unbanked, you really talk about mobile money. And M-Pesa at that forefront of driving that financial inclusion. So I just wanted to present that slide to show you the power of mobile money in Africa. And then these are just some facts, figures for M-Pesa, just get a clue. So we've got more than 16 million customers, I've said. We have what we call merchant payments. So if you go to restaurants, if you go to supermarkets, anywhere, you're able to pay through M-Pesa. Currently, I've got more than 164,000 active transacting merchants, which are processing around $400 million every single month. We've got more than 4,000 businesses that are connected to M-Pesa, a wide range of businesses. You're talking about agriculture companies, to logistic companies, to all sorts of industries that use M-Pesa, either to disburse funds or to collect funds. We have a wide range of distribution. We cover the whole country. We've got more than 130,000 agents which are active every single month. These are those which are doing at least 10 transactions every month, 130K, which is across the country. On remittance space, M-Pesa is one of the key players. So we are processing around $30 million every month inflow from the diaspora society. And also, we are sending around $10 million outside the country's remittance to outside the other countries as well. We did launch digital lending products a few years ago, and as of now, we are disbursing around $80 million every single month. These are microloans to customers, agents, as well as merchants. Overall, in a year, we process more than 1.4 billion transactions. We work with various humanitarian agents, and this will be of interest to you guys, from UN agencies and to other government agencies like TASAF. We also have got our own foundation called Vodacom Foundation, which has got a couple of other projects which are humanitarian, like the famous project here in Tanzania currently called Mama, which helps women when they are transported from wherever they are, for emergency transportation from wherever they are to nearest hospital when they want to give birth. So in a nutshell, these are the numbers for M-Pesa. Now, I wanted to build a picture because some of you, of course, might be aware of this because you're working maybe in Africa, but for some, maybe it can be an additional information. So humanitarian needs in Tanzania actually are increasing. If you look at the climate changes which are causing extreme weather, things like food security, floods all over as we're speaking right now, there are a lot of heavy rains going across the country. We are seeing a lot of destruction of infrastructure and so forth. Food security is also an issue. Tanzania is a bit better, but if you look at surrounding countries, they are actually in a big crisis in terms of food security. The second area is also health outbreaks, like polio outbreaks, cholera outbreaks, the COVID one, which are very devastating to developing economies like Tanzania, but also inadequate medical facilities to really support the population. So that's another challenge. On water, sanitation, and hygiene, this is from a World Bank report. It says that only 61% of the household has access to basic water supply, and 32% they've got access to basic sanitation, and 48% to basic hygiene. So you can see the gap is massive, and that's why a lot of humanitarian agencies that are focusing on that space as well. Gender-based violence is huge, is high in Tanzania. 40% of all women aged between 15 and 49 have experienced some sort of physical violence. 17 actually have experienced sexual violence. Poverty, still 26%, this is from World Bank again, of the population lives under 1.9 USD. This is of 2019 statistics. In terms of refugees, Tanzania is hosting refugees from DRC and Burundi. We've got more than 50,000 refugees in the country currently. So these are some of the challenges, and we've got a lot of humanitarian agencies that are operating in the country. So most of them, they are working to really digitize their journeys, digitize payments and so forth, but they've been hitting a lot of operational challenges, and we've been really trying to work with them to really address some of these challenges we'll see in the coming slides. So if we just highlight some of the challenges that they're facing in their journey, I think the one big challenge is really regulatory. For example, to give a picture, refugees in Tanzania are not allowed to own SIM cards. So, and we know connectivity is everything. That's why our purpose is connected society. If you have access to SIM cards, not only from financial inclusion, but also from digital inclusion, it unlocks a lot of other things that you can do through that SIM card. So in Tanzania, unfortunately, from our regulations, that is not allowed. The other issue is since most of the beneficiaries are really from remote village areas, there is very low financial literacy, which sometimes affect the adoption of digital financial services. The other challenge is also because of the remoteness of these areas, there's an issue of access, availability of agents or bank branches to service them. There's also some areas which also even don't have the network, remote areas. So those are some of the challenges that they're also facing anytime they want to digitize payments, so to really bring these people into formal financial inclusion. There is also an issue of pricing and affordability. So most of the targeted population is really low income. So due to low disposable income, then they cannot afford some of the bank services that are being offered. Some other challenges, lack of KYC. So in Tanzania, we've made progress on this because now at least we have got national IDs, but it's not to everyone. So still a big chunk of population which does not have the national IDs. And unfortunately, in Tanzania, by law, you cannot own a SIM card if you don't have a national ID. So that also poses a challenge because you're kind of excluding a big part of the population. And in most cases, these are people who are really also financially excluded in terms of they're people from the villages who don't have the national IDs, and hence they cannot access also financial services. Lack of access to phones is also a big challenge. Only 63%, according to the FinScope report of 2017, of population have access to phones. So there's still a big gap. And here we're talking about the basic phone. We're not talking about smartphone. If you talk about smartphone, the smartphone penetration in Tanzania is still around 40%. So still a big way to go from really proper digital inclusion. And the other thing is really, since cash has been used over the years, it's like a culture shift because cash is still king. People prefer cash over digital payments because they've been using cash. They don't see the problem with cash. Yes, from our perspective, we see cash is costly. There are a lot of other bureaucrats that come with cash, but it's very, very challenging sometimes to explain it to someone who has been using it over the years. So that's also like a culture thing. There are also challenges from some of these humanitarian agencies' internal policies. So most of these are the headquarters in Europe and America, where banks are dominant. When they come to Africa, they still think that if they need to do anything, they have to do with banks, but banks don't have distribution in Africa. So as you can see in my second slide, the financial inclusion in Africa is mainly driven by mobile money. So sometimes the local team will be understanding that and want to push maybe to distribute funds using mobile money, but then due to internal policies, they have to get approvals and so forth, which sometimes comes with delays. So what does this really mean? This change mean to humanitarian aids? Most of them are still using cash. Of course, we are in the process of digitizing. We have at least 10 humanitarian agencies who are using our ecosystem, and we are working with GSMA to really through workshops to really educate them, work with them, try to understand the challenges and support them, as you see later. But because of the cash, then what ends up is really high operational costs because there are no automations, cash payment. If you see some of these agencies, the way they distribute funds is Dar es Salaam at the HQ, headquarters. They have cars with police escorts, traveling to the regions, 600 kilometers, and then gathering people, paying them with cash, with heavy protection. So it's really high cost in terms of operation. But second is the delay in payment. So it takes like 2 to 3 weeks sometimes to even disburse funds beneficiaries. So it takes time because it's manual. And then there is the issue of bureaucracy and file. Because of the process is not automated, everything is manual. it creates that bureaucracy, and then people also start, issues of frauds and so forth. But also it promotes financial exclusion. Like these people, they now don't see the need of them, like having bank accounts or mobile money accounts. So those are some of the challenges. So what do we do? So we've been working over the years, especially last year and this year, we're really trying to work together closely with these humanitarian agencies to really understand them. Because in the past, we used to go to them and sell our solutions to them. But later on, we discovered that they got bigger problems than just, disbursement account and collecting accounts. So with GSMA, we created workshops. We sat together. We understood what they are doing. They also understood the capabilities that we have. And we really created joint teams to address some of those challenges. So as a Vodacom, for us, what we're saying is we have experience in telecom. Vodacom has been here for over 20 years. We've been working with the government. We know the regulations. We have even influenced some of them, those regulations. We know how to lobby some of those changes. So from even the workshops itself, what was really positive is how can we work together now, using our experiences and our network, working together some of these agents to really lobby for change of some of the regulations. So that's our key strength that we have. The other thing is the distribution. Yeah, so not all the agencies understood that because they thought, maybe in some areas we're not there, but we have more than 130,000 agents across the country, which means you can literally send money anywhere in Tanzania through our agents. So that's one of the big strengths that we really brought on the table. But the other thing is our ability to flexibly bring even mobile agents. You see in the next slide, we did that with one of the agencies, the government agents, whereby we agreed with them since the area is remote and sometimes agents are not motivated to invest there. We have mobile agents every time we really want to do a project in those areas. And then the third one is really...
So sorry to interrupt, just 1 minute left, please, if that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so I'll go straight to the case study. So this is the case study that we did with the Government Social Action Fund. It is a fund which is established by the government to support underprivileged families. They usually give them funds bi-monthly. And the main challenge was some of the beneficiaries did not have access to phones. So even if you want to disburse digitally, it was a challenge. So what we created is we created over-the-counter solution whereby we gave these beneficiaries virtual accounts. So you'll have a virtual account. If you want to withdraw money, you go to an agent, you verify biometrically your details, and then money will be moved from that account, the agent account, and then you'll be able to withdraw the funds. So with this, we managed to disburse funds to 97,000 beneficiaries, and we disbursed around 17 million USD. So it was really powerful because we were able to disburse funds digitally to people who were not able before to do that. So that was big. And then last year we did a WHO project where we disbursed funds to around 12.3 million customers. And this was really because of the capability of the platform. They tried to disburse it through other channels. They couldn't because the platforms could not process such huge transactions. And then we worked together with them. We created a managed desk to process and support them. So in a nutshell, that's the end of my presentation. Apologies, I took more time, but I hope you learned something from these slides. Thank you so much. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Hipimak. That was an excellent presentation. And if there's any other details you want to share, I'm sure there will be time later in the Q&A. So I would now like to introduce you to our second speaker, who is Marcus Paul. Marcus is the head of project at Child Growth Monitor, and he has been involved in digital healthcare for more than 12 years. Prior to joining Child Growth Monitor, he has worked as co-founder and managing director for the strategy consultancy called Research to Guidance, helping clients with embracing digital innovation, transforming their business models, and creating new markets for digital health to notably improve the healthcare industry and the quality of people's lives. So since 2018, Marcus has been working on Child Growth Monitor, which is a mobile app to measure and diagnose children for their nutrition status using image data and artificial intelligence instead of physical scales and measuring boards. And to tell you much more about this amazing project, I will now hand you over to Marcus. Thank you.
Thanks, Jenny. Hi, everyone. Very impressive numbers, EpiMec. Yeah. So what we're doing, hopefully we'll have the same numbers soon. Yeah, but we're still very early stages. Yeah. So what I'm going to talk about is two things. Basically, I'll tell you what Child Growth Monitor is. Yeah, Child Growth Monitor was one of the grantees of GSMA a couple of years ago. And then I'll show you how we call it CGM, yeah, Child Growth Monitor, how CGM has developed after the GSMA funding has run out. In a nutshell, Jenny has already said it. Child Growth Monitor is an app to measure human bodies, basically, yeah, height and weight of human bodies. And we do it without a scale, physical scale, yeah, and without a height board. We do it with a smartphone and artificial intelligence, yeah. And there's a couple of use cases, and we concentrate on one use case specifically, which are 200 million children, undernourished children. That means they're either not tall enough for their age or not big enough, yeah. So stunted or waist, yeah. So 200 million children in the global south, yeah. I need to keep this short. Yeah, usually this presentation takes 45 minutes. It's a very complex thing what we're doing, but please trust me in one thing. It's not easy to measure children, yeah, for height and weight. Yeah, what we see here in the bottom left, and this is how children are measured usually. Yeah, in order to see if they're healthy. Yeah, if they're not stunted or wasted, that means if they're tall enough and big enough for their age. And it's very hard. So this measurement is very hard, yeah, especially if you don't have the right expertise or if you don't have the right tools. And this is not the case in all of the countries in the global south. Yeah. So often hardware is not there, or hardware doesn't work, or is unreliable. Data get manipulated depending on what expertise and what hardware people have. They use different methodologies. Sometimes they only use this tape, which produces a lot of false negatives. And it's a very work-intense progress. So please believe me. I would go much deeper into to tell people from the global north that it actually is a problem, yeah, to measure children validly. The outcome is that only roughly 1/3, yeah, of the children in the global south gets measured correctly. The second third gets measured, but the measurement is incorrect. And if the measurement is incorrect, there will not be a follow-up treatment. And the last third doesn't get measured at all. Yeah. So there's a huge potential, yeah, for a tool like ours. Yeah, that's and our promise is that we'll make it easier and quicker, basically for anyone who has our app to conduct proper, we call that anthropometric measurements. Because only what is measured correctly can be treated efficiently. What we're doing here is really a big thing. It's a moonshot project. It's not something that can be developed within 1 or 2 years. Yeah? We've been actively developing this since 2018, 2019. Yeah? And this is where we stand. Yeah? At the moment, we do have a first product that can measure the height of children. Yeah. So the benefits, I guess you figured it out. Yeah, quicker and more accurate measurements. Obviously, real-time monitoring is possible. Yeah, which is very important. Often data travels very slowly via email attachments, and sometimes it's too late for the child. Yeah, when the information reaches the decision makers. Data protection and privacy obviously is one of the big issues that we're dealing with. Yeah, we have image data of half-naked children. So we make very sure that the data of the children are protected. Yeah. Probably the biggest lever what Child Growth Monitor have is that we're removing the bottleneck of trained enumerators. Yeah, so anyone with a smartphone and our app becomes an expert for measuring children, very much like Wikipedia has opened up the world of knowledge to everyone. Yeah? So this is how Child Growth Monitor works. The user and users at the moment are last mile healthcare workers, yeah, in the global south. So not yet parents, yeah, but I would say semi-professional, a little bit trained workers in the field, yeah, who conduct the measurements at the moment. And this is where all of these rather bad data come out. Yeah. So they would use the app. They conduct what we call a scan. Yeah, it's a little video, like 5 to 8 seconds. Out of this, we produce a 3D model, which gets fed into neural networks, machine learning, artificial intelligence, deep learning. And then the user gets back the results on the phone. So where do we stand at the moment? We're still in development mode for the full product, but we do have a first product for stunting that we're basically starting our first pilot at the moment. We are active in 5 countries, but mostly for data collection, not for pilot projects and not for usage yet. We have we have collected a lot of training data, like nearly 100,000 sets of training data. That means image data plus manual labels. So a lot of data that we can fall back to for development. And we're a team of 15 people at the moment, mostly in India and Germany. Usually there's a lot of questions. I will nevertheless move on. So we have received GSMA funding in 2019, in 2019, 2020. And GSMA was really our first big funder. Yeah. And since then, we were able to this was our starting point, to hire a team and then also get more follow-up funding from a very good partner network. Yeah, so we don't want to compare to M-Pesa, but we do have some very good partners, like a couple of governments here in India or also in African countries, the German government, EU, World Food Program, UNICEF, Boston Consulting Group, Microsoft, and so on. Yeah. And what we did with GSMA, really getting the best out of the whole GSMA network. Yeah, we went to basically every event. Yeah, we asked GSMA to introduce us to new partners and so on. So there's a very valuable resource to the day. I'm still in contact, obviously, with GSMA. I'm very happy to be part of the alumni network. This is the next and the last slide. Yeah, where are we going from here? I have not mentioned this, but we've split our product up into 2 product lines. I'll not go into details here, but very generally, yeah, we are developing the product, testing it at pilots, adopting it, and then scale it up. We want to be present in basically any country in the global south, yeah, especially the countries who are struggling with stunting and wasting. Yeah. In order to do that, we need to register our product as a medical device. That's a certain risk class, so we're a medical product. And we're working on all of this at the same time. Yeah. Again, please hit me up if you have any questions. I'll leave it like this and I'll hand it back to you, Jenny.
Hi, Marcus. Thank you. I mean, we're happy for you to go on for an extra 5 minutes. James has kindly said that we've got that ability and we can nibble into the Q&A time. So is there anything you would like to finish up on, or do you want to hand over to James?
I think it makes sense to use the time for Q&A, yeah, because usually there's a lot of questions. So I think it makes sense to have James first and then just continue with Q&A.
Of course. Well, thank you, Marcus. Thank you so much. And James, if it's okay, if we stick to your original time then, and I will introduce you now. So next up, we have James Carey. He is the Policy Officer who is leading the work on Humanitarian Innovation Policy for the European Commission Directorate General for European Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations. He has been in his post since 2019 and manages the development of policy on support to humanitarian innovation and digital technologies, as well as funding programs that are related to innovation, including the innovation and digitalization components of the enhanced response capacity and the European Prize for Humanitarian Innovation, which James is very kindly going to tell us more about today. So James, thank you for joining us, and I'll now hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks. Hi, do you hear me okay? Okay.
Yes, perfectly.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot for that introduction, Jenny, and really great to be here today with this new opportunity for innovation funding we've been developing in the European Commission, which we hoped would be of interest to this group of alumni, and yeah, maybe of even of interest to your networks as well to pass on. So I'm, yeah, as Jenny said, the policy officer, basically working on everything related to innovation at the DG ECHO, the humanitarian aid arm of the European Commission. I thought I would start by giving you a little bit of background about why we value innovation as a humanitarian donor. I mean, I'm sure this won't be news exactly to the people on this call, but maybe good to get our point of view about why exactly it is we're supporting innovation. So I think the important thing for all of our policy work, really, or at least the larger part of it, is the chronic funding gap we're experiencing in humanitarian aid at the moment, and with the number of emergencies and crises going up and getting more severe every year, and our budgets, public budgets and other funding just really not able to keep up. So in that context, we're looking for any and all solutions we can to try and bring more money into the system, yes, but also to try and make the aid that our partner organizations deliver more efficient and effective. And really we see that innovation is one of the key ways of doing that, supporting innovation, and particularly bringing in innovation from outside the humanitarian community, from the private sector, the research community, and trying to apply it to humanitarian emergencies to meet those needs. So that's the basis for our support for innovation. As our traditional humanitarian funding is not really adapted to supporting development of innovation, because it's project-based, it's led by humanitarian NGOs normally, or UN organizations, and it's aimed really addressing urgent needs first and foremost. What we've tried to do over the last few years is develop new funding opportunities, which are maybe better at engaging private sector providers, but also in supporting development of innovation. So, which are more adapted really to meeting your needs as innovators for funding. And to do that, we've teamed up with the research arm of the European Commission, the DG RTD, to access their prize funding. So that's where we came up with the European Prize for Humanitarian Innovation, or InnovAid, as the short name suggests at the top, which is aimed at showing our support of innovation more widely in the humanitarian community, our support for realizing cost-effective innovations in humanitarian aid. It's aimed really mainly at technology providers, private sector companies, SMEs, social enterprises who are developing innovations, and trying to provoke more cooperation between those innovators and what we call our traditional humanitarian partners among the NGOs and UN and Red Cross organizations. And ultimately, we want to use this prize to highlight and promote technologies which have saved lives and have transformative impact or transformative potential, and to help these tools really gain recognition, gain market share, and to scale among different humanitarian organizations and in different contexts. So I guess most importantly, for the people on this call who would be eligible for this prize, so this is a pilot edition of this prize. We're hoping that for this to become an annual thing, but for the initial edition, we have had to stick quite strictly to the EU's research and innovation funding rules, which means, and this is effectively a copy and paste of the general rules for research funding in the EU, So organizations presenting for a prize must be established, so that's headquartered or registered in some form in the European Union, so one of the 27 member states, or in one of the Horizon Europe associate countries, of which there are 16 listed there, and as well as 3 transitional countries, which are also, for the purposes of this competition, count effectively. So that includes the United Kingdom. Other ones that are notable include Israel, Norway, Turkey, Ukraine, for example, outside the EU. Secondly, the applicant must have, and as you would expect, have developed and deployed an innovative solution in a humanitarian aid environment. Don't know if I need to define humanitarian aid environment necessarily for the people on this call, but effectively it's somewhere where there is a man-made or natural disaster, where there are urgent basic needs among vulnerable populations. And winners of previous prizes, the third eligibility criteria, if you've won a previous prize from the EU, you would not be eligible to apply for this prize using the same innovation. So previous winners of a prize can apply, but it must be for a different product than was won in previous a previous prize. This prize builds on a previous pilot that we launched under the former research funding Horizon 2020, which was called the Horizon Prize for Affordable High-Tech and Humanitarian Aid. There were 5 winners of that, including Lumkani, who I understand is an alumni of this group as well. And to save a little bit of time, I think more for Q&A, I won't go into the winners of that previous prize, but I mean, it ranged from 3D printing device to print prosthetic limbs in battle contexts to Internet of Things monitoring tools for monitoring real-time water levels in water tanks in Uganda. So a big variety of use of technology, and we'll be looking for similar types of innovation this time around. However, for anyone who's familiar with that prize, this new prize is slightly different. So it's aimed more at recognition. So it's aimed really at a later stage of the innovation cycle. We're not aiming to be an accelerator for innovations. It really has to have been deployed with some positive results. But on the other hand, there are fewer conditions on the use of funds. So the prize money can effectively be used without restraints. There are no categories, so any innovation that could be classed as having humanitarian impact would be eligible. And there are 3 places. So for the first, the innovations ranked first or best, second best, and third best in the jury, or by the jury rather, will receive the awards as outlined on the screen. So 250,000 for the winner, 150,000 for the second place entrant, and 100,000 for the third place. It is a prize, so it's not project based. It doesn't involve meeting specific goals in the after the application has been made. It doesn't involve, on the other hand, explicit support from the Commission on developing the tools. It's really an investment for the future rather than step-by-step support from the Commission helping the innovation to develop. Effectively, all you would have to do is to apply, and then it will be behind the scenes ranked by a jury, independent jury, and then the next stage would be to find out if you had won or not, and then to attend the award ceremony. The application form itself is relatively simple. For 4 categories, which I'll go through in a minute for the 4 award criteria, with some optional annexes. So for a narrative description of the innovation. So we've tried to make it as streamlined as possible and as kind of light touch on the applicant as we can. I said that there's not much of a back and forth between the Commission. I mean, there's a second phase of our work on this prize. What we'll be trying to do is to do something similar to what the GSMA are aiming for with their alumni network, and to help the winners of the prize expand the use of their tools and the kind of market share and the recognition. But that would be based on a discussion with the winners to find out how we could best support that and best promote their prizes. So that would be very much a kind of follow-up step. Right, so the award criteria, I'll go through these quite quickly. There are 4. The first one is it has to be an innovation. It has to be something new, either a new technology or an existing technology used in a new way. And it has to have been deployed successfully in a humanitarian aid context, as I outlined. Secondly, it's got to be show that it's high quality and sustainable. It has to really have evidence that it provides a better quality humanitarian response, more robust, easier to deploy or repair, basically everything compared to existing humanitarian practices. Thirdly, and quite importantly, it has to show how the solution either has or has the potential to make the delivery of aid more cost effective. So how does it compare, or could it compare on a cost basis to traditional means? And then finally, the engagement with the end users. So we're really looking for products which have been designed to meet a specific challenge, not vice versa, using a needs-based approach, product aimed to meet a certain set of needs and not a technology which has been searching needs to be applied to, and how end users, whether humanitarians or affected people, have been consulted. Quite a simple structure for the call. The call is open now. There's a deadline for submission by the 3rd of October, and there'll be a remote evaluation, so which would not be require any input from the applicant, which would take place between October and January. And then the applicants, or the finalists rather, will be informed of their status, and the prize will be awarded in a award ceremony in 2024 at the European Humanitarian Forum. So finally, I'm going to stop there, but if you would like to apply or like some more information on the prize, please feel free to scan this QR code, which will take you to the website for the Innovate Prize, where you can find the rules of contest and any other relevant application procedure and any other relevant information. So I'll stop there and hand it maybe back to Jenny for the Q&A. I'll probably stop sharing my screen as well and pass that QR code around for anyone interested. Thanks.
Thank you so much, James. That was a fantastic presentation and overview of this prize opportunity that may well be of great interest to our alumni. So thank you for sharing that. Well, we have now reached the Q&A segment of this event. So we've already got some great questions in the chat, and I encourage everyone to keep typing any burning questions that you have there while I use my privilege as chair to ask the first question. So my first question is for Marcus about Child Growth Monitor, because you touched on some of the different geographies and markets that you're currently working in. And I was curious about how you essentially break into a new country and forge new governmental relationships to roll out the tool in different nations. So I'd love to hear a little more on that, please.
Yeah, good question. We asked that question to ourselves. We're not that far yet. Yeah. So at the moment, we know that this is an issue. Yeah. We have an idea how we tackle this. Yeah. For sure, it's something totally different to sell a Snickers bar to a consumer than to sell, Child Growth Monitor as a software to, let's say, the Indian government. I cannot tell you anything from experience as of yet. Yeah, it's not much to say. We are in contact with governments, and I mean, it's always good if you start low, on a low level. Yeah, we know those 5 governments in the countries that we are active on. We know them. Yeah, it's an official project that we're doing, and then we could either work our way up, or we do have very good partners who could give us contacts to basically any ministry in the world at any given time. Yeah, this helps a lot, I guess.
That's really interesting. So using the power of your existing partnerships to make those connections much more efficiently. It sounds like it's very useful. Thank you, Marcus. Okay, so I'm going to go for the first question that's in the chat here, which is from Kathy Riley at Flowminder. Thank you, Kathy. And this is for EPIMEC. So she says it's very interesting to hear that Tanzania, that it's not technically or legally possible for refugees to own a SIM card. So she's curious to know about any estimates of numbers of SIM cards that are drifting into the hands of non-identified holders, by whichever means, informal, etc. And then the second part of her question is thinking about the future and improving the system. Are there moves afoot to influence at policy level to enable better humanitarian action? So Epi-Mac, would you like to take this one for us?
Yeah, thank you for a good question. Practically on the ground, yes, there are, of course, people are owning a small chunk of people owning the SIM cards illegally. And of course, usually it's driven by the need. So you cannot sometimes close all the loopholes. The government currently is trying to restrict also the number of SIM cards that someone can own. Even if you have a national ID, there is a certain number of SIM cards, I think around 3. If you want more, then there's a process that you have to request for approvals and so forth, just to make sure that people don't own many SIM cards and then they like use them to maybe sell or give to people who are not allowed. So that's what the government is doing. From the police perspective, I think that's what we've been discussing, specifically as UNHCR. We are trying to like create a joint team between ourselves, UNHCR, and GSMA to really lobby with the government to show them the need for this. Yeah, because practically we are like locking those guys from digital inclusion, from financial inclusion, and it's very expensive even for humanitarian agency to save them. So that's what we are doing, hopefully to work. The government right now is very listening to new ideas, new ways of working. So hopefully we'll get a breakthrough on that. Yeah. So maybe next time we'll have good news.
Yes, we'll keep our fingers crossed. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, our next question is also from Kathy, and it's for Marcus. So she is wondering about the technology behind Child Growth Monitor and how facial recognition is achieved through your artificial intelligence. And then she's also wondering about data protection. So how you prevent data breaches, how is the data stored and secured, both in the phone handset that's being used on the ground and wherever it ends up being stored, whether it's a cloud-based storage system or otherwise.
It's a very complex question. I'll try to dissect this as much as possible. Yeah. So facial recognition is not a goal of ours. Yeah. That the fact that we have the face of the child is rather, we would rather not have it. Yeah. But obviously, if we take the front photo, yeah, it will be part of the data that we have, because the face is PII, personal identifiable information. Yeah. How we handle this is that as quickly as possible, we anonymize the data. Yeah, that means we dissect PII, so age, date of birth, and so on, and also the face by blurring it from the rest of the images. Yeah? At the moment, this is done server side. In the future, we will do it on the phone immediately. Yeah, so that means the data that at the moment also there's quite a lot of data traveling back and forth. Yeah, in the future, everything will be done on the device itself. Yeah, that means we will blur the face of the child. We will dissect the image data from all other personal identifiable information, and then we're safe. Yeah? So that's one thing. The other thing is that we adhere to one of the highest data protection standards in the world. That's GDPR, the European data protection laws. Yeah? And we just say what GDPR tells us. Yeah, and that we all and on top of it, yeah, we want to make sure that the data is safe. So we store the data on a server that's fit for medical purposes. Yeah, we work with Microsoft products. Yeah, Microsoft is one of our very long partners. Did I forget anything? Yeah, and we conduct penetration tests. So for people who don't know what a penetration test is, that's basically legal hacking. Yeah, so we are contacting an outside organization, yeah, to hack into our system and tell us if there are any weaknesses, and then we can fix those holes. So whatever we can do, to make the data safe, we do it, because we know, that data protection and privacy is probably not something that the parents or the caretakers are aware of. So we have to do that for them.
I think
Please
this is a
type
really
again
fascinating.
if I didn't answer any aspect. Yeah, please ask again.
Absolutely, yes. If anyone needs any clarification on any of those points, please do type it there. I'll jump to the next question, which is from Robin. Will any of these PowerPoints be shared? So the recording of this webinar will certainly be shared, which contains all the PowerPoint images in it. Next question is for James, and it's on the detail of the prize. So James, I wonder if you can join us just to kind of clarify if the innovations that you're looking to apply to the prize have to already demonstrate impact. And what does that mean in terms of quantifiable evidence? Does that mean that you want to hear about the number of lives being saved, costs being saved, etc.? So if you wouldn't mind joining us and clarifying that, that would be great.
Thanks. Yeah, good question. So I think there's two aspects to this. There's an objective criteria, which is has the innovation been deployed, right? So I think we need to see that there is some evidence of there having been a pilot at least, or some deployment of the tool. Now you can obviously the more and better data you have to back that up, to back up the impact, the better, I would say. But there is a largely subjective part, which is for the evaluators to define, which is based on I think taking that data or whatever narrative that you are able to provide, what is the potential for this, right? So it's not all going to be based on the kind of hard figures that I think were mentioned, a number of lives saved, kind of extrapolated and so on, but it does have to have been deployed, and I think that's the key thing. Nothing that is in the kind of pre-pilot phase would be relevant, I think, in this.
Great, thank you, James. Okay, so just going back to the chat there. So yes, Kathy, I can link you up with EpiMech to explore those synergies that you've identified further. And I think we have reached the end of the Q&A, and that's all the questions. So I just want to take this moment to remind everyone that we have that LinkedIn group that we have created, which is where we're going to be sharing all the latest calls for funding, which may be a really good match for your innovations, present and future. So please do click on that link, join the group, and we look forward to sharing all of those useful streams of funding with you in the future. But for now, I would just like to thank all of our presenters for sharing their amazing insights with us, taking the time to do so today. Thank you so much. And my great thanks to my colleagues for helping me pull this event together. And of course, to yourselves for joining us today and making this alumni network a community. We're looking forward to having you all join us for our next webinar, which is on the 4th of July. So please save the date in your diary. And I will be in touch very soon to share the recording of this webinar. But for now, thank you again for joining us, and have a great afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.